I'm interested because you teased it before we went to break. Tell me the Urban Meyer story. Very interested in that.
So I was in a practice. It was as they are, as most of them are at the college level. It was a closed practice. During their fall camp one year, when I was on my training camp trip, I'll stop by Ohio State sometimes and visit with some people. And so, I don't know, this is probably less than 10 years ago. And so, I'm out there, and it's probably like an hour and a half into practice. And at one point, Urban stops the practice and just starts ripping into this freshman who doesn't look like a freshman at all, who looks like he could play in the NFL right then, right? And he just yells in front of everybody that he's going to take the kids 5 stars and shove them directly up a body part. And
his pie hole.
Yeah, it was and it just completely destroys this kid in front of everyone. Now this kid wound up being a first-round pick. I have taught there are a couple of guys I was around when that happened, and we've talked about it since. And that was what was called at the time de-recruiting, right? Which is there's a very common term with college coaches where you recruit them, you tell them how great they are for a couple of years, you get them on campus, then you have to de-recruit them, basically knock them back down, And you can't do that anymore because they can all leave. They all have the ability to pick up and go. And, so I think to some degree, what you're getting at, Fred, is that Bill may have to adjust the way he coaches a little bit. And
according to guys who played for him, there's no way. What you're
getting at.
And guys that played for him have kids college age now. And they're saying there's no way. He's gonna drive them all away.
So there's gonna be an adjustment there. I do think, again, part of this might be, and I think what people are missing is a lot of people are focused on the 18 and 19-year-old piece of this. He doesn't have to build it that way. Mm-hmm. If you look at what Kirk Cignetti did at Indiana this year and taking Indiana from, I don't think it's even an argument, one of the worst programs in any power conference, right?
It's all portal kids, right?
It was it was 25 kids out of the portal, and they're in the college football playoff. Mm-hmm. Indiana's a worse football program than North Carolina, also a basketball school like North Carolina is. And so there's a different way to build it, which I think, my guess would be that Bill and his staff are going to go really hard into the portal.
And this is just, since it's a holiday book, and this is just a question for you. You are under the knowledge that Indiana will never duplicate this again, no matter who their coach is. They lucked out with their quarterback.
I mean, they lucked out in a lot of different. I think that the difference with Indiana is Indiana brought a lot of kids. There were a lot of kids who had played for Cignetti at James Madison that were coming.
Where he wins, Google it.
Yeah, yeah. So, you guys can Google what happened on the third Saturday in November too. You can find out there.
Well, wow, that was a surprise.
Yeah. So anyway, I think there is a different way to do it, which is instead of and this whole idea that he's going to have to sit in the living room of a high school kid, that doesn't exist really either.
No, and that's wouldn't be my concern, because I think that he could do that. What my concern would be is that, what you just said, is kids can just leave, and they do. What's the kid from Vanderbilt? It's just I just came right out and said, I will go to whoever pays me the most.
Right.
I believe the quarterback at Vanderbilt has come out and said, I'm just going to go to whoever pays me the most.
I think the flip side of it, though, is I do think with Bill, there will probably be a self-selecting element to it. The type of kid who's going to want to go play for Bill,
whose dad wants him to go play, right?
The type of kid who's going to sign up for that,
right, is going to be
probably
coachable.
Is not going to be that kind of kid.
It's going to be coachable, and it is true. A big thing in college football, and a reason that it's not always that there's teams that play in the college football playoff that aren't just Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia. And Georgia wasn't good, by the way, when I lived there, is that coaching up kids is a huge part. I don't doubt that Belichick's going to be the best coach out of anybody he goes up against in the ACC. He is. And I think Bill O'Brien was a better coach than most teams that he played this year. And, he'll win games because of that. I think Bill will have success at North Carolina. I think that there's people around here that like you said, Bert, don't know anything about college football, and I know there is, and then I think I heard someone say
I think crapping on college football around here is a defense mechanism because people don't know what they're talking about, so they don't want to talk about it.
That's my defense mechanism for everything I crap on is my ignorance about it. But I will say this: I did hear someone say, and he's got the fertile Carolina recruiting ground where he'll dominate.
Jesus, all right.
I know.
Okay.
Good you?
I mean,
all right.
Yeah, that's what I think of. I think
What do you
Georgia, California, Florida, and South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
What do you think it'll look like?
There are good players there.
There are good players there, Bert, but you don't. But you
Texas,
can't,
Florida, California.
Well, I mean, no, but Clemson, like a huge part of what Clemson did was they went into Charlotte and took all those kids.
Okay, and what is the problem with Clemson and the idea? I mean, Debo saved his ass, but Debo doesn't like any of that stuff in the NIL.
But if you can go, like if you draw like a 5-hour radius around North Carolina, you get to Atlanta. Right,
that's Georgia, though. That's not what I said.
Or Virginia, where there's a ton of talent.
That's not what I said. That what the person said is that the fertile recruiting ground of the Carolinas, which I do not believe you can build.
Well, South Carolina, there has been a ton of talent over the years.
And you know who got it? NC State, and I put money on them. NC State got every kid out of South Carolina.
Again, I do think that if we're focusing so much on the high school piece of this, we're probably missing the forest.
No, I know, but I was using it as I wasn't focusing on it. I was using an example of that being a ridiculous statement. That if you dominate the Carolinas, that you're going to win. I mean, Ohio's a great recruiting ground. Ohio State
can't win by just recruiting Ohio. They're national.
They're national. Michigan State's national. Michigan State's got kids from the Pacific Northwest and California. Yeah. You gotta.
So when they come out September 1st, what do you think a Bill Belichick college football team will look like on offense and defense?
See, I actually think
Wing T.
I know, right?
I actually think scheme-wise, it'll work because Bill's simpler than people think. Like everybody thinks it's this real complex.
He is a simp.
Everybody thinks it's like everything is so complex, and he does need smart players. But what most guys who played for him would tell you is that he does on a week-to-week basis make things easy for you. He'll usually say, "We do these 3 things, we win." He's not going to overload guys with information going into a game. Now, what he does need is players who can do different things, who can switch what they're doing from week to week. But like in an individual game setting, like he doesn't make it so difficult that like a smart 20, 21, 22-year-old won't be able to get it.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be able to run a pro-style offense. There's no way he's going to be able to coach
and they don't have the time to do that either.
They don't have the time to do it anymore, so he's going to have to run a shotgun offense where you're looking
will
to
it
the
be
sidelines.
like 17, 14 games? Will he throw the ball everywhere, like spread them out college-wise? Will it be a lot of fun to watch?
Different scheme each week.
I know. What do you think it'll look like from a fan's perspective as you try to watch him go?
I think he probably will try to do that thing where they switch it week to week. Now, you can't be – I don't think you can do as much of that in college again because – your meeting time is limited. The kids are obviously a little bit less developed than a professional football player would be.
But he said yesterday that he would have more. He looked forward to having more time with these kids because of the NFL restrictions now on practice. And getting out.
I think what he's getting at is you can hit more like that, and that to me is the one thing. Like NFL coaches complain a lot about that. Like college football, you can hit a lot more in practice than you can in the pros. Like
interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah, like if you look at I mean, have you guys heard about like Bloody Tuesday at Georgia?
No.
Like
the sororities.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You walked into that. Come on.
I did. So Kirby Smart
has bleep that out.
They call this Bloody Tuesday at Georgia, where every Tuesday the practice is very, very physical. And so like they believe there that one of the reasons that they're such a hard-edged program is because of that. And because in the season, they're like just killing each other. And that doesn't exist in the pros. So I'm sure to some degree, Bill feels like, well, if I'm building a program based on blocking and tackling and fundamentals, I'm going to have a better chance to do that at the college level than I did in the pros because I'm going to be able to practice that way.
And that's the part that fascinates me the most out of all the stuff going on around is what Bill's mind is going to look like going into tackling, being a head college coach.
I think it's going to be fascinating to see the way all of this plays out because – he has zero experience coaching college
Right.
football.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like legitimately zero. So it's a whole new thing for him, and how does he adapt it? What does it look like? Who's he bringing with him? You know,
Well, he's bringing Mike Lombardi.
Yeah,
And that's the most important thing.
Do you know Mike Lombardi? Like, know him?
a little bit, not real well.
What does a GM of the NIL do exactly, Bert? What are his responsibilities?
Like this isn't,
It's huge.
but this isn't new. Like what they're doing there.
No, I
No, we
understand
went
it
over it
isn't new.
yesterday.
We
Like,
got
a
that.
college
But what
program-
is he going to be doing?
We looked at how much they got paid.
Gets paid a lot.
Well, he's not going to get paid a
But
lot.
that position,
And Michigan is over $1 million
Alabama,
position.
whatever, they get paid a lot.
So they do manage. They manage recruiting, and they're the ones. And I honestly, like, I almost think those jobs. Can you imagine if you were one of those guys having to look at high school tape and having to decipher? Okay, like this is like Division 5 in Mississippi, and this guy looks like a really good player, but how do I compare that against a guy playing like big school in Texas? You know, so it's doing that. It's looking at transfers, it's keeping track of that, and then it's going to be managing NIL to some degree. I'm sure they'll have somebody who's like NIL specific, but the GM would be the over the top guy.
When D'Antoni was the coach of Michigan, he kind of fell in love with this, which ended up hurting him. But he would just, when he looked at kids, he would look at how much they could physically grow. Like for all like linemen, the kid that they took in the first round kid, the tackle out of Michigan State, Conklin came in as a like
he was a walk on.
He was came in and he was like 6'5", like 200 pounds, something really slight. He was a good small high school kid, and they put 100 pounds on him, and he grew.
They look at like arm length, and they look at like how broad their shoulders are.
Exactly. So a lot of that. That's what I would concentrate on if I wasn't Ohio State or Alabama.
It was actually interesting. I remember having this conversation with Jeff Halfley when he got to Boston College, and he said we have a lot of good kids, but we do not have prototypes. And so, when he had just come from Ohio State, and Halfley had seen it there, and they were really strict about prototypes there under Urban Meyer. So a guy needs to be this big and this tall and this long and this fast, or he cannot play for us unless there's some sort of circumstance that allows him to. So they were super strict about it, which is one reason why they've had so many draft picks. They had so many draft picks there under Urban Meyer. And so what Halfley did was he went in there and he said, you know what? I can't get who Ohio State can, but what I can do is I can use the prototypes. So the guys he'd take chances on would be the guys who fit those sorts of parameters.
You can build them over 3 or 4 years.
Right. It's like I'm not betting on what he is right now.
Yep.
I'm going to see what he is in 3 years.
And that's where the talent comes in, and the coaching comes in, and the nutrition and workout comes in. Mike Lombardi, why does he know so little about the injury reports for the 49ers, even though his kid works for the 49ers? Is it because he's terribly dumb? He's been on Mad Dog twice. One time he announced how he had heard McCaffrey before the season that he was coming back for week 1. And then I looked on my phone, and the first story on ESPN was that McCaffrey was out. And then he said, why did the line move on the 49er game? And it was the game Brock Purdy was out. He's a moron and a fool.
Is he running interference for the Niners there?
No. He got very upset when corrected. Well, how am I supposed to know? I'm coming on this show. Mike Lombardi, to me, what do people think about him around the NFL?
I mean,
be honest.
It's like that he's Belichick's valet or whatever.
Like, why does he do that? Why does he do that?
Well, I guess we just found out.
To get that real big job. So he spent 10 years of his life hoisting nuts around
but
so
his
he could
last,
get a $600,000 job.
But the 2 football jobs that he's gotten over the last 12 years since Cleveland, right, have both been been Bill.
So he's a moron.
And even Cleveland was because of Bill. Cleveland was. Yeah,
he's an idiot.
Cleveland was like Haslam was listening to Bill on that.
See, there's Josh McDaniels who got a shot at 2 head coaching jobs and offensive coordinator positions because of Bill Belichick. I understand that loyalty. I understand Matt Patricia's loyalty to him. And Patricia's a real idiot and a dick. But
it wouldn't be such a problem if he wasn't like talking about everybody else like they were a moron.
That's
what I mean?
that's
the
that's
problem.
my. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem if he wasn't talking about anyone else like they're a moron. He would just be a moron,
Right.
Like, yeah, that he's an idiot that acts superior to everyone else
Yeah.
and acts like he has inside information. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
What's your inside information, you moron? And then it's sad to carry a guy's nuts around and be Beetlejuice of sports talk radio where they have you on to make fun of you. And then what you get out of it is some rinky-dink job at North Carolina is a shame.
Me?
What?
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was Beetlejuice. All right, thank you. Yeah, there you go.
That was
It sounded like Dan.
I know, Fred. You looked
oddly.
at me like, and I.
It sounded
did
like Dan.
Did I
Oddly.
just speak and not know it?
All right, I love this Bill Belichick story. I apologize. I love it.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.